I'm back. Apologies for the wait. I guess if you were waiting for something from me, I do deeply apologize. Sometimes I get this thing in my head where... What was I doing again? If you're familiar with Mega Man, you're familiar with Zero. And Zero, you know, Mega Man's sidekick, the cool guy, the morally gray character, right? Zero, he's got two versions. So he's got Zero from X, and then there's this guy, who is also Zero. Technically the same character if you want to get into the lore. Same guy, completely different look. By the way, Mega Man Zero. What does that mean to people? If I didn't know anything about this, I would think I was playing as Mega Man, because it's Mega Man Zero. Is this a prequel? What's going on? No, it's just a game about Zero, but, you know, marketing says that we have to put Mega Man in front of everything, so I guess that's why. So this Zero gets his own quadrilogy of GBA games, Mega Man Zero 1 through 4, which, incredible games. Incredible system GBA. Like, let's take a moment to talk about how amazing the Game Boy Advance was. Some of the best GBA games I've ever played. Man, those games were sick. And I S-ranked all four of them, and sometimes I wonder, how the heck did I do that? And if you wanted S-rank, which somehow I did when I was a kid, you basically had to play perfectly. No deaths, minimal damage, fast clears. I love this version, obviously. So when Kotobukiya put out a model kit version of him, I think at the time, maybe it was the only version of this character available in figure form. I knew I had to get it. I was going to build it eventually. I never did, but here I am. I'm here today to tell you that I finished it. But here's the thing that's been rattling around in my head the entire time I was working on this kit. Teenage me sat there and ground these things out. Every single mission was an S. And now I will boot up the game to get that little bit of nostalgia. I'll get to like the first boss of the first stage in each one. And then I'm like, what am I doing? It's so hard. I just don't have the patience for some reason. And it's not that the games got harder, obviously, so what changed? I genuinely don't know. And it's been bugging me. It happens a lot. All the classic games. Sitting down and actually having the patience to finish one to the degree that you finished it when you were a kid, it seems impossible sometimes. For anyone who has truly tried to become a master at these types of games, you know there's this moment. There's this thing that happens when you've played one of them long enough and you become an expert. You stop thinking. You're not really pressing buttons anymore. At least it doesn't feel like you are. The stage starts in front of you and your hands just answer it. You dash, you jump, you slash, you wall cling. You're not looking at the screen exactly. You're looking at the pattern underneath the screen. Your mission timer is ghosting toward a perfect clear. Your damage counter hasn't moved. The S rank is already on the other side of the boss door and you can feel it. And then some absolute nobody enemy fires a single pellet, one little sliver of damage, and the run is gone. The S you're about to get is now an A, and then you restart it. You try again. Because of course you do. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because this build was that. The whole thing. A run that was going perfectly, all the way to the very last stretch, and then a single pellet from nowhere knocked it down. Except in this case, the run was this kit, and the pellet was 3 separate disasters in a row. So I guess not one pellet, it's 3. Let's just talk about this kit for a second. Out of the box, the kit's actually pretty good compared to the other Kotobukiya Mega Man kits I've talked about on the channel, the original Mega Man, Proto Man Roll. This one's a bit more modern feeling. Engineering's a little better. It's still old though. It's an old kit, so I approached it knowing the things I learned from before. I guess learning how to build and paint figure model kits is its own thing. You know, there's a whole different set of considerations you have to make compared to something like Gunpla. But I knew that going in, so I was ready. So I'm building him, torso, arms, legs, you know, helmet pieces, whatever, I'm flying. I'm making really good time. There's still plenty of seams to fill and usual Kotobukiya stuff. I had to do some sub-assemblies and fill some gaps and, you know, modify some parts in that way to make sure the build went smoothly, leading up to painting, but it wasn't really that much to write home about. I made a few modifications. I threw in another LED, but this time rather than in a Buster arm or something, which this version of Zero doesn't have, I threw it into his forehead gem, which is pretty cool. You've seen a lot of the artwork, even the cover artwork on the model kit, he's got this cool glowing forehead gem. And it's kind of a feature in the game too. But I wanted to have that in a few photos or whatever, so I threw that LED in there. And I'm thinking, finally, like a smooth build. Just kind of worked. But yeah, it didn't end that way. So I paint this whole thing. The painting goes really smoothly. I wanted to try my best to match the look of the official artwork, and not like the finished illustrations necessarily for the color, but more like the character design sheet for Zero himself. So I chose colors, and kind of my paint philosophy on this kit was to match that as best I could. For his body, I did some pre-shading, and I think it really helps sell the shape of those pieces. For the red, I went with the premium red from Gaia Notes. It's such a bright, intense red, and spraying it on in thin coats, you can really bring up that saturation in that red. And I added a bit of magenta just because in the official artwork, it does lean magenta. However, I did a bit of light mist coats over the top of this coat with the ArchiveX SP Daylight Red, which is kind of a muted tone. It gives it a vintage feel, which I felt like the Mega Man Zero official artwork gives off this kind of vintage vibe. Same reason why I chose this white as the white, the Brunhild white. It's kind of a gray white, but it just looks white when you look at it, but it's not true white. For the hair, I find hair to be really fun to paint. It's pretty easy to get good colors, especially when you prime with yellow. And for this, I just went with the character yellow from Mr. Color. Layered that on, shaded it as best I could according to the flow of the hair pieces. Speaking of, these are the Eastern models hair pieces that I was painting right there. And for his yellow armor, I wanted it to feel different than just the character yellow. So I did a ArchiveX kind of vintage yellow feel with the Reefer yellow as the base, and then I did a clear gold over the top of it, and it has a really cool look. I'm definitely going to carry this into my other Zero kits. So yeah, moving on to assembly, everything was going really smoothly. The parts I had to modify, like some of these parts, in order to, paint with better color separation. They went together really well, except for this part. This was tough. I had to really, really jam it in there, and I lost the detail that I painted in underneath those armor pieces, but it's not a big deal. And I'm putting the pieces together, and I suddenly realized that the neck piece was gone. And as you know, when you lose a piece, it's this bizarre thing that happens because it truly disappears. You're like, I know where it has to be, and yet it's not there. The so-called carpet monster is a real phenomenon. I don't understand it. It's in some interdimensional pocket somewhere, and actually there's probably a lot of cool parts in that interdimensional pocket in my house. And it's not like I could just find an extra of this piece because, this kit has been long out of print. Welcome to my mess of a garage. So I had worked extra long on that piece. I scribed new details like I saw in the book and all this stuff, and what a waste of time. But after I lost it, I was like, how do I fix this without having to buy another one of these kits? Because I would not do that. I just wouldn't. It's too expensive. But luckily, I found a friend on Printables who offered to basically model one of the neck pieces with the added detail. And he sent me the STL, and I just printed it. So I'm going to go take a look at that.
I'm still new to resin printing, and I knew it was a mess before I got into it. But it's hard to believe just how much of a mess it can be. There we are, fresh off the printer, the piece in question. It's actually looking pretty good. I'm pretty impressed by the print, so I'll get this over the bench, get it cleaned up, after it's cured at least, and rescribe these lines and see how it looks.
So this mistake, or this unfortunate happening of losing the neck piece, ended up kind of being a blessing in disguise, because now I had an even more detailed neck piece that was more accurate to the artwork. I did several test prints on these pieces, and it turned out really great. I still had to rescribe these lines a little bit, not too much, but I think the added detail and the added height especially creates a huge difference. I was told I could host this file for download, so let me know if you're interested in that piece, and I will do that. Just a quick clarification. That creator I mentioned who 3D printed those files, they requested not to be named, so I'm respecting them. I'm really grateful to them for supplying this part and working with me on it, and it turned out awesome. So thanks, you know who you are. Cool, next solved. Onward, final assembly. I start putting them together again. And as I'm putting them together, you know, things are tough to put together sometimes, these joint pieces. And sure enough, paint starts chipping. It's just chipping off like crazy. Like, this paint was cured. Like, we are well past the cure window. We're probably weeks past it. But every time a joint goes together, every time a piece clicks, I'm watching little flecks of red come off. And not catastrophically, right? Just enough that I'm sitting there going, no. Why is this happening? But I had to repaint a bunch of areas. So it was almost like starting from scratch again, like another session. But I did it. I'm doing assembly again. That goes smoothly. Here he is. He's done. I start shooting, trying to get some poses going for some show-off footage for this video, right? And, yeah. That happened. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but the entire shoulder ball joint just ripped right there inside the socket. Oh my gosh. At this point, I honestly, I wanted to give up. I had just rescued this thing. I couldn't just glue it back. There'd be no structural integrity. So I gave it a day, came back the next day, and I was like, what can I actually do to salvage this? In that moment, I remembered, oh my gosh, I think I've got a couple of extra pieces from the Proto Man kit. And sure enough, the shoulder neck joint thing from that kit was very similar, not the same, very similar. Similar enough, the ball joint was the same size. So I kind of managed to hobble a repair together. I used some brass rod. I drilled into the shoulder joint, glued it with a brass rod, pulled the shoulder joint out of the arm piece, and then I was able to reinforce on the inside, also drill, glue on a rod, connect the new ball joint to that piece in the chest. Now, it's at a slightly off angle compared to the original part, but it's the best that I could do. And man, thank goodness, because this saved this build. I completed the graft, and it worked. It's not as good as a fresh part from a fresh kit, you know, a lot of strength, structural integrity. So I'm not going to be able to do crazy poses with it, and I wasn't able to in the first place. Obviously, this kit really can't do much with its posing, but at least I could build him. And then he was actually done. And here he is. Mega Man Zero from the Zero series, actually standing up. Neck piece, courtesy of a 3D printed rescue, shoulder ball borrowed from his sister series counterpart. Paint redone 3 different times in 3 different places because, oh yeah, in the final assembly after I did this fix, the paint was chipping even more, so I had to repaint again. But I keep thinking back about what I said earlier, about how I used to S-rank these games, and I wonder if it's the same thing. The patience I had for those games as a kid is the same patience that got me through this build. The willingness to restart the stage, to do the first repaint, to fix the shoulder joint, to do the second repaint. Because the alternative to doing all of that is quitting. And I don't want to be a quitter. I wasn't a quitter when I played these games. I'm not a quitter now. I haven't lost the patience because I finished. And here he is with all of his accessories, all of his hands, his blaster, his Z-Saber, and his Zero Knuckle, which is actually a Zero Palm, but whatever. We've also got these 2 hair pieces. These are from the Eastern model kit, Mega Man Zero. They have the same connector as this kit, so I thought might as well paint these now. If I ever get around to doing the Eastern model kit version, great, but I mean, they work great for this one. So yeah, 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess. And Zero's proportions with the mods I made and the added height from the neck piece, I think that Zero looks spot on here. His accessories are few but cool. Again, stupid hands from Kotobukiya, my least favorite thing they ever do on any kit. And only 1 extra faceplate, though the extra eyes make up for it. I wanted to compare him with the only other Zero figure that I think properly exists, and that is the SH Figuarts Mega Man Zero. And here they are next to each other. So a few things you'll notice right away. The height difference obviously is pretty massive height difference. Coloring, you know, this is a model kit, so of course, you know, it's gonna be whatever I want it to be. But something I appreciate about the coloring on the Figuarts one is that it really did try to nail that sort of magenta tone in the red. Now, I wanted a red that was going to be a little bit more versatile, so for photos I could lean it more magenta with some warmer light or some, you know, tint like magenta balanced light. And I did add a bit of that hue in the paint, but it does strike a balance. So in the artwork, what I noticed is that without the full illustration treatment from Toru Nakayama for the official art, Zero's red was very much more of a kind of magenta tinged red rather than a full kind of magenta as seen here. And something else you'll notice right away is even though the Figuarts is much smaller, his hair is about the same size. So the Kotobukiya hair, in my opinion, is too small, where the Figuarts hair is at possibly the right size, but it's also way too heavy for this figure itself. I hate this kind of triple jointed ball joint thing it's got going on here because, like you can see here, it just forces his head to tilt whichever direction the hair is going. Kotobukiya one is a bit more solid and stable. Something that the Figuarts nails much better than the Kotobukiya kit. You'll notice the kind of extra bits of detail there on his ankle joints. Those are present in the official artwork. Oh, there goes his hair. You can see how fragile he is. But those kind of like that extra bits of detail, I thought about adding that into the kit, but it just wasn't gonna work right. But this is very much kind of how this area of his design is presented in the official artwork. And you also notice, like I tried to do on the model kit, his neck, but it lets you see the neck underneath, which is something that the stock model kit just could not do. So let me just kind of show you that. I went in and added additional height on the neck and additional detail through that 3D printed piece, which doesn't seem like it would make a big difference, but when you look at it in person, it takes the proportions from being very off with a too big head to feeling like this is really how he should be. The expressions and everything, they're a little dull on the Figuarts, and this figure is really not aged well. And obviously you've got a kind of a high gloss finish on his armor with sort of a satin finish on the rest, which is cool to see multiple styles of finishes on this figure. But overall, after making the changes I made to this one, I think this is overall the better representation of this figure. If it weren't for the scale, I don't know why they went for 1/10 size. But I did want to compare one other, and that is the Eastern model kit version. Now this I got off of eBay, it was already built. Don't at me about this, but it's a terrible presentation right now, missing pieces. But I just wanted to show the scale. This is kind of how they all look together. I don't know if I'll ever get around to really doing up the Eastern model kit version just because it's so much work, but comparison for comparison's sake. I definitely appreciate this kit more than I thought I would at the end of it because of the struggle. I'm sure I would have felt accomplished too if everything went super smoothly like it seemed like it was, but now it's even more special to me, and I'm glad for that. Well, even though I fixed the problem, I still look at it now and I think, I'm done with you. Part of the reason why I haven't put out another video in so long is because I was just struggling with this. It was such a nightmare that I honestly considered just being like, you know what? I gave this thing a try again, this whole YouTube thing, and building these kits, I love doing it, but like, this is a nightmare. And sometimes the things we love can try our patience, but I do truly believe that it's always worth it to push through. And I'm talking about a toy here, like, let's be honest. But it still taught me something. I will keep making stuff. I'm not gonna quit. So, until next time. Hopefully, I'll catch a break one of these times. But I hope that my struggles are at least entertaining.